let's get on with our content. We've got an afternoon of 5G, and I have a little fun announcement to make. Would you like a fun announcement? There's a new boy band in Maritime, and they've called themselves 5G. And they're here to present to us. They didn't mind. I did ask before I said that. They're here to present to us how to create a 5G blueprint for your port and maritime organisation. So they're going to introduce themselves, and I think we've got I'm hoping there's some appropriate music to welcome them to the stage. Let's welcome them all. Thank you.
Just to go and try to throw it all away.
For that, Dr. Joe, I think we probably need a little bit of an energise. Just after lunch there, the carbs are probably kicking in, etc. I'm feeling focused. I know my colleagues are here, so we're really hoping to give you some good insight into the world of 5G and what that might mean for the smarter port of the future. I'm John Goy. I'm working as a solutions consultant here at BT, assisting on a wide range of applications, working with customers to solve some real business challenges, using technology introduction to help change processes for the greater good. A very warm welcome to those in the auditorium. Hello, everybody. And also a big cyber hello to everybody online. Hi, everybody. Hope you also had some lunch too. And we want to take you on an interactive journey this afternoon to explain how we built a blueprint for the digital transformation in maritime and spin around that a 5G capability. We hope that you'll find this session informative, educational, and if neither of those work for you, we certainly hope that we entertain you. I'd like to introduce to you several colleagues in front of me, part of the boy band, thank you, Joe, to give us the benefit of their many years of experience, be that selling or consuming solution capability. So we've got Ericsson's Phil Bonner. Hi, Phil. Thank you, everybody. We also have Will Addison from Gorilla. We have Brian Jackson from BT. And we have, by no means least, Ian Blake from the Port of Tyne. Gents, could I ask you to give me 20 seconds intro, job title, what you do for your organisation, starting with Ian.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. I'm Ian Blake. I'm Head of Innovation and Technology at the Port of Tyne. That involves working through the Maritime Innovation Hub, looking at new ideas, new technologies outside of the sector. One of my projects at the minute is to devise a smart port strategy for the Port of Tyne, which involves 5G, which is why I'm here. Thank you.
Brian?
Good afternoon, everybody. Brian Jackson. I'm the Director of BT Surveillance and Smart Solutions. We specialise in video and IoT technology, driving business change. Our pedigree has been around video for police and government sectors. We've moved into the commercial sector and we're actually focusing on smart things with technology into C&I customers.
Thank you, Brian. Will?
Yeah, hi everybody, Will Addison. I introduced myself earlier today, but I'm the VP for Innovation at Gorilla Technologies. We're working on this exciting project with the lads up here to deliver some of our software applications, AI applications, inside the context of a 5G network. So I look forward to telling you a bit about that.
Thank you, Will. Phil?
Yes, good afternoon everyone. My name is Phil Bonner. I work for Ericsson and I work very closely with my colleagues in BT. I focus on enterprise and private 5G and how that can really bring innovation and improvements in productivity for ports as well as manufacturing and other enterprise organisations.
Thanks, gents. Okay, so we're going to use Mentimeter this afternoon as well. If I can encourage you, if maybe you've forgotten through the course of lunchtime, to visit mentimeter.com on your smartphones. As mentioned, the _ BT Wi-Fi hotspot to give you access if you don't have any mobile coverage will work for you. And as soon as you log on, you should see that window on the right-hand side there. And if you could then install in that enter code here, 65665877, that will connect you to the portion of this presentation. I'll just give you a second to get that sorted. Also, with our colleagues online, if you look at the portal, there is direct access to Mentimeter through the portal. Again, the code is 6566 5877. Thank you. Everyone good? Great. Right, so we have a journey for you today, which we felt was probably best illustrated on this horizontal line here. Everyone in this room, on the stage here, is going to be participating in explaining their portion of the journey. But just to give you a view, we want to sort of start by discussing the challenges that are affecting the maritime industry and sector today. We want to understand from a digital transformation, you know, what does that mean? I know it's bounded around as a phrase quite often, so we'll zoom into what we think it means. The right conditions, of course, to foster the mindset for change. We'll dig into that and some of our experiences there. Look at adjacent markets to see who are the shakers and the movers already transforming using new technologies to give them greater return on investment, doing things quicker, faster, smarter, better, etc. We'll also address the big question of why 5G. Okay, so we've got a lot of Gs knocking about in terms of 2Gs, 3Gs, 4Gs, but 5G, it is everywhere in terms of people talking about it, but we'd like to address why we believe it's the right technology to transform towards. Then we're going to have a look at some use cases to understand what can actually be achieved today, to try and stimulate some imagination from those online and, of course, those in the room. We will zoom in with the assistance of Gorilla into a number of AI capabilities that are already deployed and working and show you some real-life examples with the Port of Tyne's blessing. We will then introduce Ian to talk us through the Port of Tyne journey and how they have got from essentially where we were maybe 18 months ago to a great announcement which Ian will be making later today. And then, of course, we'll sum all that up and we'll say that we're open for business in the smarter port. Okay, so moving on. Let's take challenges as a first pointer. I'm going to throw that to you, Ian, if I may.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that it's widely accepted that the UK port sector is probably behind the curve when it comes to technology implementation. This is largely due to investment over the years has largely been around plant, machinery and infrastructure rather than the technical systems. There's quite a lot of stats on screen there. I'm not going to go through them all, but typically what they're saying is there's concerns within the port industry and in the terminals around optimization and efficiencies within the port. We're still very manual, there's still a lot of duplicated processes and systems don't necessarily talk to each other. But just to bring that to life a bit, I'd like to share with you the challenges that we have at the Port of Tyne. John? So this is the Port of Tyne, sunny as always, the sun always shines in South Shields. So this is quite a large, expansive land bank on both sides of the river, North and South Shields. The bottom half of the picture is primarily our bulk and conventional areas. We've got warehousing, you can see the container compound in the middle of the site. We've got Nissan, and at the right-hand side of the image there, we've got Equinor for offshore wind and renewables. On the north side, we do passengers and ferries. So we've got a constantly evolving landscape. If we'd shown you the picture of the port 12 months ago, that would have been different. This area in the middle would have been a coal stocking ground. We had conveyors storing aggregates. That's now been levelled, concreted, and we have a new offshore wind customer coming on there for storage and marshalling of monopiles for offshore wind farms. We've got some new roads in there, which have only been opened in the last few weeks. We've built new warehouses, and we've demolished office buildings. So the problem that we have with the constantly changing landscape above ground is that it disturbs the ducts and the cables that we put underground. So our civil engineers are often breaking out cables, we have to reroute, we lose access. So having a wireless access method above ground is essential to us moving forward. We have a wide variety of plant and machinery, and some of it is at different ages within its lifespan. If you invest multi-million pounds into cranes or forklifts or other machines, they have to last for 25 to 30 years to get that return on investment. So we've got cranes that are very manual, still diesel driven, but they've really got 10 to 15 years left. So we have to work out how we can bring those under our umbrella of being a smart port and being a green port. We've got legacy systems, we've got some old IT systems in there, and from the way the port's evolved over the years, it's been one company, two companies, three companies over the last decade. There's a lack of system integration, so we've got a lot of data within the systems, but they don't talk to each other and they don't share information. So what we've got is duplication. We've got staff keying information into one system and different staff keying the same information into a different system. So we need to be smarter about how we bring these things together. There's probably been an underinvestment in systems, as I mentioned. That's changing now with the launch of Maritime 2050, the smart port revolution. All ports in the UK, ourselves being no exception, are investing in technology and want to be able to look at ways to drive efficiencies and optimization. And within the workforce, we have to be mindful of the digital skill set and bring our colleagues and customers, partners, and friends along with us on the journey. We don't want to leave people behind. So we need to be aware that a lot of people in the port sector, myself included, have been there 20, 25 plus years, 30 years, and we need to make sure that they've got the right skills and the right systems and access so they can help us move forward as well. John? So this is our journey. Most people in the room and online will know this, but I'm just going to recap just for completeness. In 2019, the UK government launched Maritime 2050. Maritime 2050 is the government's 30-year plan to revolutionise, modernise the UK port sector. As a direct result of that, 6 months later, we opened the 2050 Maritime Innovation Hub at Port of Tyne in South Shields. And that was 10.5 years ahead of the government schedule. They were expecting to open one by 2030. The hub is the first and only one of its kind in the UK. The focus is for collaborative discussions and working practices with other ports in the UK, other ports in the world, and other industries. So there's a lot of shared learning. Automotive companies, nuclear sector, RFX, and other members of the armed forces. We speak to all of these people and find out what they've done well and how we can bring that into the port sector. And we look at shared challenges and how we can overcome them together. The idea being that we're better as an industry rather than as individual businesses. Following Maritime 2050, the Port of Tyne also launched its own long-term transformational strategy, Tyne 2050. So this is our 30-year plan about how we are going to change our business for the better. It aligns with Maritime 2050, but the targets are intentionally more ambitious than Maritime 2050. So we're looking to be net zero by 2030, and we think we'll smash that by a couple of years. We want to be all electric by 2040. There's challenges around that as well, about grid connectivity, etc. And one of the projects within Tyne 2050 is to devise the smart port strategy, which is something that I'm looking at, and I believe 5G will be fundamental. So for me, the term smart port, it's a bit ambiguous. If you Google it, you will come up with hundreds and hundreds of different answers to that question. So this is the Ian Blake trademark definition of a smart port. And it's one that uses technology to improve performance and drive efficiencies. It really is that simple. Let's not overcomplicate it. Technology's there, we want to use it for the better. To make it even simpler, we want to do more with less. We want to be cheaper, faster, safer, data-led, secure and automated. And all of this has to be driven by innovation. John?
Thank you, Ian. Very interesting. Stepping on, we do now have our first Mentimeter. The code, just to remind you, is 65665877, and it looks like that might have been from the earlier one.
No, it's the right one.
Can we start it again? Is that
No, it's
doable?
live.
Is that live?
It's live, yeah.
All right, okay, brilliant. Okay, so everyone's ahead of me. The question that we're asking is, what word best describes innovation to you? We'll just give it another 30 seconds. We've got quite a few people jumping on and adding some words. The biggest word in the middle, or the larger the word, the more times it's been stated. Thought-provoking, progress seems to be winning, change, forward-thinking. Just start thinking, gents, about what your thoughts are on that word cloud. Okay, right. So progress seems to have stood out. Phil, what do you think about that? Is that are you expecting it to look like that?
I'm glad it's there, yes. I think the whole reason why, and hopefully you'll see this as we go through today, is that the innovation is driving those new things that we want to do. It's really about outcomes. It's about how do we take what we have today, how can we make it better, and that's progress. So really glad that we're starting to see these kind of things, and many of those words up there is kind of what we'd expect to see from innovation. And I think as we've seen today, we've seen huge amounts of discussion around AI and innovation, and so yeah, I think it's exactly what we want to see.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Right, taking us back to our journey, we are moving forward on that. We've heard from Ian explaining the challenges and how the Port of Tyne themselves are approaching those. But let's bring in digital transformation as a concept, and I would like to maybe throw that to you, Brian, if you wouldn't mind walking us through.
Yeah, thank you, John. So I think like smart ports, what is the different definition of digital transformation? So just taking some bits off the internet and trying to distill what people are saying about digital transformation, it's redefining models, functions, operations, process and activity, leveraging technology to build a digital business. But the most important part is it's where the operations and finances meet to actually prove that the costs and risks are minimised and there's an ROI. So quite complicated, quite wide open. So, what's our thoughts? What have we been doing? How are we attacking this industry and looking at how we can help and support our customers? So we've come up with the bridge to outcome. And I'm going to be a little bit controversial with Ian. Technology is really important, but I think technology helps us do this. It's not the thing what makes it happen. It's the people, it's the processes, it's how you implement the technology to drive that outcome, which is really important. And what we're seeing is it's getting information to the right people at the right time and using data to make informed decision making, whether that's something really, really simple or something really, really complex. With the use of AI, we can actually get to this information quite quickly, real time, hopefully make instantaneous changes to actually improve things. So what we're seeing with a lot of our customers is where we can bring this technology together, we join it with sensors, with networks, with the visualization, interpretation of that data, we're driving efficiency, absolutely driving efficiency, and real time. But we're enhancing security, enhancing safety, and I know we'll talk about a bit later and demonstrate it. But we're also giving everybody the information of, I didn't know that. I've been in quite a few scenarios, won't go into massive detail, but commanders of air bases saying, didn't know that was happening. Now I know about it, I'm going to do something about it. But having that information at the fingertips in an easy to understand way is really important. So again, delivering digital transformation is different for everybody. There's a different starting point. There's different technology. But actually, having the foundation is really important, which I'll touch on a bit later.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, John.
Phil, I wonder if you could give us a view from an Ericsson perspective.
Yeah, so I think what we've seen today is that there's no two ports are the same. Every single port has a very slightly different business model. But what enterprises really need is they need outcomes. What is it they're doing this for? What can they get from taking on technology? And those outcomes generally are made up of a bunch of use cases. And those use cases need to fit with the port in question. So there needs to be an operational fit. If you're a container port, aggregate, or automotive, cars, etc., whatever it happens to be. Security, as Brian mentioned, is super important. A lot of kind of data sovereignty, keeping control of where your data is at any given time. You need an ecosystem of devices, whether it's a CCTV, a sensor, a tablet. You need all those kind of things that all support those outcomes. The likelihood is you're going to need performance. You need that system to work, all of the time, 24/7 across the year. And then you put a network in, it needs to be able to scale because the outcomes and the use cases you have today may not necessarily be there tomorrow. You may want to add more and more and more. And then at the end of the day, it needs to be resilience. And once you've got those kind of ingredients, those needs that the enterprise needs, then it allows you to start to do some of these other things. So you can start to look at how can you better automate your processes? How can you better improve your safety, perhaps because you're removing people from harm's way? How can you be agile? You want to do things quicker. It needs to fit a TCO. You know, there's not going to throw money at this. It needs to be low, it needs to be simple, and it needs to have that interoperability that Ian mentioned. All these different systems have to work together. You need to consolidate that data. So what we're really talking about is, you know, we have a whole bunch of really interesting technology, but that technology has to be there for a reason. It's about addressing the enterprise needs, addressing the drivers, and dealing with the outcomes.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, so we now have a short video just to introduce some of the things that we've been doing at BT, which dovetail beautifully into the maritime sector. It's only 60 seconds, so bear with us, and then we'll get back to the journey that we're all on today.
Ports operate at all hours and in all weathers, and business needs change over time, so our solutions must be robust, resilient and flexible. BT is a trusted partner for positive and high-value change. We do not believe that technology alone is the answer, it's what that technology does that adds value. Value is delivered when you get the right information to the right people at the right time.
By utilizing video streams from CCTV cameras, we can now apply AI to identify and classify objects. This means that while the camera can deliver a security function, it can also create useful metadata. Systems can identify how many cars or people pass an area, identify people not wearing high-vis jackets, or even look for dents and holes on a container to provide an accurate audit trail and prevent liability or damage claims.
Okay, so if we can encourage you to jump back to your Mentimeter browsers. Again, code, just so everyone's on the same page, is 65565877. You might need to refresh your browser. And for those online, of course, you do have the portal where you can just click on the left-hand side and gain access to this. So the question that we're asking you is, are you already thinking about digital transformation? On your marks, get set, vote. There must be a lot of people online. This is great. Delighted to see no is 0.
Fortunately, we haven't got everyone in the already implemented, because then we can pack up and go.
I'd be interested to know who thinks they've already implemented digital transformation.
Okay, so maybe to you, Ian, is that the sort of answer that you may have expected, or is that sort of taking you aback a bit?
I'm not surprised by that. I thought we'd have a few more in the considering it section rather than actively implement, so it's really good to see that companies are embracing the new technology that's coming out. As I mentioned a couple of seconds ago, I'd love to speak to the people who think they've already done it, because for me it's so to use a trite phrase, it's a journey, not a destination. I don't think you'd ever fully digitally transformed. There's always something else to do. But yeah, that's really interesting to see those results.
Okay. Thank you, and thanks for keeping with us and voting, everybody. Okay, moving forward, back to our map. So we're challenged, we have transformed, or we understand that we need to transform. Now we want to understand what the right conditions should probably look like. And again, you might sort of look at these in a moment and see a reflection of your own organisation. What we're going to do, Brian, can I just throw to you just to touch on this point for us?
Yeah, no problem at all, John. So I think the picture says it all. Lots of things communicating across a wide area. And I think that's what Ian was saying was the challenges of now and the future for the port environment. So the foundation for a digital transformation is site-wide connectivity, delivering the capabilities to do these business critical things and do them in a gradual way, actually looking to the future, as Phil said, and making sure it's scalable. So we need seamless, ubiquitous coverage across this area. With the stuff we're doing with the Port of Tyne, we've got private 4G, private 5G, covering majority of the port. That network's got to be robust, resilient, and it's got to have a high quality of service. I can remember Ian talking to me, and it's once we adopt this technology, we actually implement these changes, there's no going back. We can't put people back into the equation. So that rings true every time we do something, we sign something off and we move forward. We have to have low latency. We've talked today about AI and what's going on. Video, which is the DNA of what my business has been doing for the last 30 years, needs low latency, especially when you're using real-time video, controlling cameras, following people, following things, using it to do more than just security. So low latency is really important. Equally important when you're actually implementing autonomous vehicles. We don't want the vehicle to stop in a few seconds. We need it to stop straight away. All this stuff is so important. We need it to be very, very secure because we don't want anybody getting into this network. And again, the network's got to be secure end to end. The devices, the network, everything around that network. So again, security is really important. I know Adrian from the team will be talking about that later. And I think the key part, and we saw that picture of the everything connected, what we do today, what we do tomorrow, using the rules for what's been talked about by things moving at really fast pace, it's got to be scalable and it's got to be adaptable to meet the changes and challenges for the future. So we're pretty good at doing this. John, if you can just move across to the next slide. One of the reasons we're actively involved in building these private networks is we've got a great pedigree. We've been delivering public networks which have been scoring the highest points for coverage, for usability, for capabilities for the last 10 years. And that technology, working with Ericsson, is reproducible into this space. So we've actually delivered networks with this sort of public capability into the private space. So again, we know how to operate them, we know how to manage them, we know how to fix them and support them, which is all very important for a 24/7, 365, or sometimes you say more than 365, Ian. We don't stop, is what he kept saying to me in the meetings. So all this resonates, and again, most of our customers who use our networks every day also need that sort of capability.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, John.
Right, so from a right conditions perspective, we potentially have fostered those. Now, where we need to go now is, are we ready, Phil? What are your thoughts?
Are we ready? Well, I think we're certainly at the beginning of the journey, but we're not at the very start. If we look globally at who is looking to take digital transformation, private 5G, you can see their number one globally is manufacturing, second, mining. Mining, trying to remove people from harm's way. Now, of course, in the UK, mining is not so big. All these gold mines and diamond mines we have. But in the UK, when we zoom in on the UK, manufacturing is up there, but very closely behind it is ports. And I think there's no real surprise. We're an island, I think we mentioned earlier, there's kind of 200 ports in the UK. It's the lifeblood of import and export, and it's a fairly defined geography. And as Ian mentioned, I think there's a tremendous potential to digital transform our ports and really start moving us to go forward. So I see that there's a lot more to come, not just in ports, but manufacturing, healthcare. There's so many different use cases that require ubiquitous, high quality coverage. That is the enabler for those new use cases and business outcomes that enterprises require. So Ericsson did a study a couple of years ago. We have a number of these different industry verticals. Ports was one of them. We took a smart port, we took a kind of container port, and we said, right, well, if we were starting from scratch, what were the kind of top 5 use cases that we thought were going to give us our biggest bang for a buck? And the top 3 were, how can we get much, much greater automation of our RTG cranes, remote operation of STS cranes, greater use of AGVs. How can we kind of remove people from harm's way, get a lot more efficient? And those use cases, those 5 use cases over a 5-year period in this model generated around 178% ROI. So we know, and this may well be up for debate, but we know that if you can implement the right use cases at the right time for the right ports, there is significant advantage to be made. And that's the whole story, really. How can we get this technology into the right place at the right time to deliver these outcomes?
Thank you, Phil. Right, okay, so we'd now like to ask you another question on Mentimeter. Remind you of the code, 65665877, available on your smartphones and, of course, through the portal. The question that we'd like to ask you is, what is stopping you from digital transformation? Have you got any blockers in your organisation? There might be your own feelings, colleagues' feelings, senior leadership feelings. We'd be delighted to hear. So far we have got an unclear ROI and timescales. That kind of feels a sensible position given that this is a transformational activity, fairly young in its deliverance to the market. Not too many other adjacent markets have already transformed. I understand why you might say that. Will, would that stack up with you?
No, I mean, I think that's very, very fair. And I think the onus is on, on us as industry, to be able to deliver some low-hanging fruit ROIs, where people can very clearly see, what the value add is going to be, and then sort of build out from there. Very difficult to sell, something that's complicated to implement and expensive. Start simple.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Right, back to our plan. So, this is probably the big drum roll moment, really, to find out why 5G is the most appropriate technology in our humble opinion, as to why this might help transform into the smarter port. Over to you, Phil.
Okay, so why 5G? So we kind of reused this slide from before, and Brian kind of outlined what were the characteristics that you need to foster that whole digital transformation. And 5G has been kind of in the making. We've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, now we're on 5G. But the thing is that we're used to our mobile phones. We all have mobile phones. We've been using them now as our smart device. Our lives are on our smart devices. But what 5G brings now is significant more capacity, and more coverage, much, much more efficient use, and it works extremely well in enterprises. Yes, us as consumers can download a YouTube faster, but actually in the enterprise space, it really starts to make. So you really want mobility. You want to be able to, in our case, we've lit up the whole of the Port of Tyne. They have got fantastic coverage, and they can move their applications and devices and people and machines all the way around and still have fantastic coverage and connectivity. But you need to have different types of connectivity. A video application has different needs from a sensor that sends a piece of data every 5 minutes. So you want to be able to manage the performance, manage the quality of service, ensure you can get the right service at the right time. It then needs to have predictable latency. And one of the things that 5G has moved on from 4G is the ability to actually deliver data far quicker, which is really important if you've got a sensor that is providing information about the quality of something that a human is using. You want to make sure that you can start and stop that whenever you need to. Or if you're looking at very high density video information, you need that data super quick. As mentioned earlier, end-to-end security. The same SIM card technology, end-to-end encryption is in 5G, and then resilience. There's no point building this network if it's not up and running. So our networks are built to the same standard as the public networks. We have inbuilt resilience. We're building and we're managing the coverage to your specification. The beauty of this is that we take a complete network, we miniaturize it, and we engineer it for your needs. So if I've got loads of video applications, we'll engineer it for that. If you have loads of asset tracking or sensors, we'll engineer it for that. And that's exactly what we've done there. And then combine all of that with a service wrap, because it has to work 365. So, okay, but Wi-Fi. Why can't we use Wi-Fi? Why can't we use 4G? Well, this comes back to the way that 5G has been engineering, and I'm going to super simplify what we've got here. Wi-Fi, we all use Wi-Fi, we use it in our homes, use it in the offices, and it's great for that, right? But one of the problems with Wi-Fi is what the technology it's based on. If we were all talking in this room today, and I wanted to kind of get a word in edgeways, I'd have to wait for a gap. And when there's a gap, then I can start talking. And that's fine if there's only a few of us in the room. But if there's lots of us in the room, as the number of people involved goes up, then my ability to find a slot to talk will be reduced. And that's no good if I need data sent at a certain time. With 4G and 5G going beyond that, everyone gets a slot. So your slot is allocated. You can send your data when you need it. And from that, we can then start moving into more real-time applications, cable replacement. And when we get to 5G, the granularity of when you can send data is even shorter, and you send more data. So in a simplified way, in that case, you can send data real-time with a bounded latency for those applications. And that's why 5G is perfect for the kind of applications that enterprises desire.
Thank you, Phil. Interesting.
So a little bit of fun now, really, because like in our consumer lives, you may well have a Ring doorbell that dings and.
Phil, there are others available on the market.
others available on the market. But you can use that today, and you can see if your FedEx has delivered your package. You know, you can tag your pets, your kids, your bags, your car. We use FaceTime, we have HD voice and HD video. You may have a smart meter at home, so we're measuring our own electricity, and we all use tablets, right? In our enterprise life, we have some guys sitting in the kiosk waiting for the vans to arrive. We can't necessarily find where our tractors or our steps or our people are. We use old walkie-talkies where sometimes you can't actually hear what their people are saying. We have a whole bunch of machines. We don't necessarily know what electricity they're consuming, and we still have lots of pens and paper. So we have a really great opportunity to raise the bar. We can really take on a lot of the things that we take for granted in our own lives. Let's bring that into the enterprise life and use the technology that is actually available. So we don't have to take these massive steps. I think we're talking about AI this morning. I heard a lot of things that are perhaps 5, 6, 7 years away. Actually, there's lots of things that we can do today, a lot of low-hanging fruit that I think if we get the right connectivity in place, they immediately become enabled. And then you can build and build and build. And that's where the return on investment comes.
Thank you. Okay, so we'd like to sort of get into the what now, I think, and understand what is the art of the possible, what can we do. And both Brian and Ian are going to give us their views on that. Over to you, chaps.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think the key thing is you need the foundation. I mentioned that before. Connectivity, ubiquitous, all the things what Phil and the rest of the team have said. Once you've got that connectivity, then we need to understand the problems. You know, what is your number one problem? Ian's problem to somebody else's problem will be different. But actually what we're seeing across Maritime, across C&I customers is there is a common set of problems, and actually there's a common set of solutions. How you determine what you do once you get that information is different. So let me just talk about the sensors connected across a ubiquitous network, visualization and understanding the information which has been fired at it, taking that data, which is lots of data, and distilling it into information. We're driving lots of things, and the key thing really is what's important, where are you on your journey, and how do we implement things which, as Phil said, which can be done today, which can prove smaller ROI cases, which means you get onto that digital transformation journey. So John, if you just move to the next slide. This slide is really, really busy, but actually it's all about operational efficiency, enhanced safety, enhanced security, the right information to the right people at the right time, and doing lots of things. So give you some examples. CCTV cameras predominantly been used for catching naughty people doing naughty things. We've heard today cameras are probably the most intelligent IoT sensor. Taking that data and using it for things which we're allowed to use it for. Again, there's lots of legislation we need to comply with, but a camera can do lots of things with that information. It can pass the information into AI systems, like what Gorilla do, and that AI system can actually make sense of that data and produce real-time information which can help make real-time decision-making. That could be around safety, it could be around security, it can be around business process. The key thing, though, for us, though, is sitting down with customers, understanding those problems. We've got a plethora of sensors. We've got a fantastic network connectivity which we can configure. We've got a single pane of glass which can bring lots of that information together to give you a visualization. The biggest issue is working with our partners, understanding those business problems, and actually implementing change to business processes, and actually then automating that and driving real return on investment. So I think the key thing to leave everybody with is, what is the problem? It can be anything. There is a solution out there, but having the right foundation and building it in nice incremental blocks, proving your ROIs is the way forward. And I think that's the journey we've taken, and we'll expand on a little bit more later on. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Oh, we're doing another Mentimeter. Right, okay. So in an ideal world, which areas in a digital port are you collectively interested in exploring? Obviously, we've got this online as well. We know the code 6556 5877. Please jump on, smartphones and through the online portal. So we've got no idea, thankfully that's 0. Video analytics is crawling up there. We've got asset tracking, condition-based monitoring, data collection and analysis seems to be winning so far, autonomy of things, and just plain old better connectivity.
I'm quite pleased that better connectivity is low, because I think, whilst we are into connectivity, the connectivity in its own right is like, that's fine. It's really about, say, taking the video, taking the sensors, whatever it happens to be, and taking insights. Yes, data connectivity is important, but it's the enablement. That's the enablement. It's the things that go on top that actually brings an outcome for the port or the manufacturer or the mine or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, I'm really pleased that people are already starting to think about what they would do in their situation.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Right, so we're going to bring Will in now from Gorilla to do a zoom in on some of the great things that we're delivering using the Gorilla technology at the Port of Tyne. Over to you.
Thanks. Thanks, John. Yeah, so we were called in by Ian and by BT to kind of look at some of the problem sets that they were looking to find solutions for at the port, and to apply our sort of AI software-based approach to solving those. And a lot of this slide is kind of stuff that we've spoken about a lot today. So obviously the key to a lot of this is collecting the data. To start with, the first thing is actually getting access to it. So you have to install it, put all that infrastructure in place. Once you have the sensors in place, and they're in the right places, installed, doing the right things, great. You can then get access to that data through, in our case, the 5G network, and process that data. So the way we've done this, at the port is, with edge processors. So very, very small, cost-effective processing computers, which have our algorithms and software loaded up onto it, so that we can crunch that data for the things that we're interested in, and present it to the port, to the users, the everyday operators, in a way that they can kind of understand and make sense, and then act on and do something about it. So I'm just going to show you a quick video, sort of snapshot of kind of some of the things that we've done, and then I'll just sort of unpack some of them after that. So yeah, John.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, that's a bit big. Is there the slide with all of them, separated them out? We've got one each.
Yeah, one each.
Okay, that's perfect. So you just saw some of the things run there through the video. So we've got container damage detection. We've installed the cameras in the port, just basically the sort of the entrance ways where the lorries and the containers kind of come in. We will expand it to other areas of the port, but that's where we're operating for now. And just as the containers come in and out, just a quick scan using the existing cameras that are there of the damage that may or may not, of course, be on the containers, classifying that damage, and then sending it to other software so it can be presented and analysed as well. So that's container damage, ID and detection tracking. So this is done for all containers around the port, basically just auto extracting the registration numbers and inputting those automatically into a database. So all of a sudden now, every time a particular container goes through any of the cameras in the port, we can identify and match it up through that tracking number to the container itself. To the extent that there's damage, of course, associated with that container, we know exactly which particular container contains the damage, what type of damage it is, and where it is on the container. And another use case we've implemented is PPE detection. Now, this, you don't need to flag it immediately necessarily if somebody's not wearing a hard hat or a high-vis jacket. You can build up statistic over weeks and months and sort of see, well, look, the policies that we've implemented, etc. How are we doing as a port on this particular safety measure versus, the relevant PPE items that we're looking to detect. So those are just a handful of kind of use cases that we've looked at. There's loads of things that we can do very cost effectively from cameras about mapping out, understanding port environments, where people are, how are we doing for safer ports and to boost operational efficiencies, because that's what it's all about, and ROI obviously as a consequence of that.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, John.
Good news, gents. We are bang on time. We're doing well. We're doing okay. I'm going to push this into you in a second, Ian, if I may, to talk about Port of Tyne. I think you've got quite an exciting announcement to make. I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to leave that to you. Just to remind you.
New album.
Over to you.
Was that the reunion tour in 5 years' time?
That's it.
Yeah.
So, trying to bring this back round to the end port industry. Just to recap on a couple of slides that we went through earlier, because they were really interesting. One of the mentees where we asked what was stopping implementation of 5G, the far and away highest point was an unclear return on investment. And that's something that we as a business have struggled with. 5G implementation comes at a cost, and any business needs to recover that cost if they're going to implement new technology, otherwise it's counterproductive. But we've been very fortunate that we've got a hugely supportive board and senior leadership team that have taken, leap of faith is probably too strong a word. We know that there's benefits there to the business, but we can't actively tell the business what the return on investment will be in the next 12 months, in the next 24 months. But that's what we're working on. The use cases in the industry at the minute are so low that those levels of financial information aren't available. And that's something that we want to do as a business, help to provide other businesses with our learnings from the test beds that we're going to set up, from the technology we're going to implement, and help to take us forward. And it was interesting as well, the one where we asked about what technology you want to implement, that there wasn't a clear winner. So it's quite obvious that people are looking across a wide breadth of technology to help them achieve their goals. The image that Brian showed earlier of the ship with the 5G, that's something that the BT showed to us during the tendering process when we were looking to establish a 5G partnership. And seeing that image was probably a bit of a watershed moment for me, because I thought naively that if we did 5G, we'd implement X and then we'd be done. There'd be a big solution that we could put in and that would solve all of our problems. But really, looking at that image, there isn't one golden bullet. There's not one solution that a port can put in to make itself 5G ready, digitally transformed, optimized and more efficient. There's going to be an iterative step of different pieces that will form the jigsaw, and that jigsaw will be different for every port. So for us, that is Tyne 2050, and that's our jigsaw to help us build towards a better future. Now, this is our Tyne 2050 vision, and that's to be the UK's safest, most progressive, customer-focused and environmentally sustainable port, and a great place to work. Now, that's not something that Matt Beaton came up with. That's not something that the leadership team came up with. That's something that our colleagues within the port came up with. We had focus groups, we had workshops. They looked at the projects that we were thinking about doing, and they helped to formulate that Tyne 2050 strategy. It truly is transformational. It involves the staff. And these are the key themes that we're looking at. We've got health and safety, resilience, environment, communities, technology innovation, customers, and our people, our colleagues. And these projects that sit underneath them, 7 key themes, 23 key projects, are run by people within the business, not by the leadership, not by the board. They're run by our staff, our managers, and we have volunteers from across the business helping with these project teams. We're really enabling our staff to help transform our business. So in reality, the project that we're talking about today is this purple one here, the Smart Port Strategy. But when I was thinking about it, and I'm probably the sad one in the room that's actually done an MBA thesis on 5G in ports, when I looked at these, it's not just that Smart Port Strategy that 5G will impact on. It goes further than that. It should bed into everyday life. John? So when I looked at it, every single one of those projects bar one, will be enhanced by 5G, and I'm sure I can somehow shoehorn 5G into open days. I'm going to persuade Joe to let me buy a 5G coffee machine, just so we can get it in there as well. So in reality, we see 5G as an enabler to our Tyne 2050 project. Buying 5G on its own gets you a nice network. It doesn't do anything. It's what you build on top of that network that makes the difference. I've always talked about 3 pillars towards Tyne 2050 success. The first one is connectivity, and we have the connectivity. The next one's data, and you need the connectivity because ports are big, wide areas of land, lots of moving parts. Once you've got the connectivity, you then start to harvest the data. And once you've got the data, you can understand how the business works, where it works well, and more importantly, where it works badly, and the areas that you need to focus on. And the third pillar is the people. We need to bring our colleagues with us on the journey, make sure that they feel suitably skilled and suitably supported in the journey. John? So these are the active work streams that we are working on as a business. These aren't aspirational, these are actively happening now within the business. As Will mentioned, we're looking at container identification and damage check-in. So as the containers are being lifted off the vessels, we're scanning them, we're looking for damage, we're reading the container number, we're checking the seals are intact to help smooth the process of discharging vessels. We're looking to put 5G smart gates around site to help ease the flow of traffic. We've got a number of gates around the site. We have issues around freight moving between them. We have dock exit passes. So we're looking to smooth the efficient operation of the internal port working. We're interfacing with the port GIS system to enable real-time information relating to roads and infrastructure. John hates me doing this, but I keep calling it 5G dash cams. So basically, we're going to fit dash cams on the front of our utility vehicles, and as they drive around, they will scan the roads, they'll scan the street furniture, they'll check for damages, they'll check for potential issues, where we're liable for flooding, and we've got any potential potholes. They will feed that into our GIS system, which will inform our civil engineering department, and then we can make preventative maintenance. 5G voice comms, I think it was Phil that mentioned early, UHF radios, old tech, not particularly great, and our staff are now carrying multiple devices. They've got an old radio, they've got a smartphone, some of them have got a tablet as well. We want to merge all of that into one device. More health and safety conscious, they're not trying to juggle multiple things, easier for everybody to use, clearer voice comms, and more safe. We can send out alerts, we can be more in more communication with everybody. Autonomous vehicles, we've just completed a trial with a company called Ant Machines through Connected Places Catapult, a TRIG grant. Through the catapults, we have met numerous fantastic companies, and some of them in the room today. We've got Chrome Angels here. I urge everybody to speak to them outside and have a look online. We're doing some fantastic VR simulations around health and safety in the warehouses on the quayside. We've got RoboK on site as well. We're doing some AI over CCTV work. And we've got some other projects coming up through the Freight Innovation Fund and through the Maritime Accelerator. Ruggedized tablets and wearables. At the minute, it seems crazy, but we've got men on the quayside who, if they spot an issue, they've got to walk back to the office to sit down and log on to a computer so they can then update the systems or update a manager. We want them to be tech-enabled on the quayside. If there's an issue, let's see it in real time and let's fix it straight away. Let's keep people safe. Artificial intelligence, that's the work we're doing with RoboK. Please have a look at them online or speak to How in the area outside. Fantastic technology. We're looking to see if we've got, we're looking for near misses in the warehouse. When are people being too close to technology? Have they got the correct PPE on? What's the traffic flow like? How many vehicles are coming in? How many are going out? We've never had that data before, and now we are starting to gather that. Real-time plant and machinery tracking for location and optimization. You would be surprised how many times we can lose a 20-ton forklift truck at a port. One driver will take it, park it somewhere, go for a cup of tea. The next driver has no idea where it is. So if we implement smart tracking on our vehicles, not only will we know where they are, we will know where they've been, how much fuel they're using, what the emissions are they idling too much, are they being used efficiently, Are we optimizing the number of vehicles we're using for a certain job? When we discharge vessels, do we have too many? Do we have too few? And lastly, drones. I see a future where we've got a fleet of purple drones flying over the Port of Tyne. These are for security checks, intruder detection, roof inspections. In 2023, we shouldn't be putting men on roofs to see if they've got a hole. We should be doing that with drones and then put the man up if there is a hole, not just to check. So limit the amount of time people are in danger. Thanks, John. And finally, the announcement that John alluded to is I want to announce now, here today, that we are live with our 5G network at Port of Tyne. We've gone live, we've got full site coverage, we've done the checks, we've done the optimization testing, and the signal strength and the range of the 5G network has far surpassed our initial expectations. So we're now officially a 5G port, running real-time 5G applications now. And as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to keep that information to ourselves. We've got no interest in circling the wagons and patting ourselves on the back. We want to share our learnings and share our experiences with everyone. There's been good bits, there's been bad bits, things have worked, things haven't worked. So we've created our 5G vision doc, which is on screen behind me. That is live online as of today. You can look at that, you can download it. And that is just a document, that's our vision. But what we want to do is encourage conversations. We want to work with other ports, we want to work with other industries, we want to work with other sectors. Let's work together for a bigger, brighter future for everyone. Thank you.
The Port of Tyne is one of the UK's biggest trust ports. It's a real critical part of the UK and the global supply chain, and it helps provide goods and services around the world.
Our vision at Port of Tyne is to be intentionally ambitious. We have a strategy which is called Tyne 2050, and in that vision we lay out all our plans for the future. 5G is a really important part of that. The business driver for exploring 5G is all about being a leading green, smart port. We're really committed to our net zero agenda, aiming to be net zero by 2030, and to be as efficient, safe and collaborative as we can be. In our vision, we are aiming to become a green, smart port, and 5G is a key enabler of that. It'll help us to become faster, more efficient, safer, and also drive our net zero agenda as well. So with our collaboration with BT and Ericsson, we're looking forward to all the use cases that we're going to be leading the way with here at Port of Tyne.
Within the port estate, the landscape is changing constantly. Using traditional methods of connectivity, using underground trenches and ducting just wasn't viable. So you can guarantee that as soon as we wire up a building, some of the infrastructural change will need to reroute those ducts. So I see the implementation of 5G as being a game changer for the maritime industry, using the data that we can gather from IoT sensors and other sensors across the site.
From a people perspective, the primary outcomes will be largely building on our ability to build for the future through digital upskilling, through the introduction of process improvements. But the biggest outcome for me, along with safety, will be that aspect of increasing the skill set across the port and providing opportunities in the local community.
5G is super exciting. I think the innovative approach to use cases which helps businesses do things quicker, faster, smarter, better is something that is very dear to BT's heart, and we know that is also very dear to the Port of Tyne's around economic prosperity, which is very important. So the other overlay which we know 5G brings to the game is its improvement around security end-to-end encryption, which we see as very important in the assurance of data across a network.
I think key for both companies was leveraging technology to drive enhanced safety, enhance operational efficiency, enhance security, but also give insights and future capabilities for things which haven't been invented yet or haven't been tested yet in the environment.
Use case-wise, one of the most interesting ones we'll be looking at is the track and trace of the plant and machinery on site. Using that, we can optimise our fleet, make sure that they're not doing redundant journeys. We can optimise fuel usage, and we can allocate costs per activity. We can also learn more about the location of where they are on site, where they're most frequently stored, and do emission checks as part of our green agenda to make sure that our plant and equipment is working efficiently, effectively, and environmentally friendly.
We are technologists at heart. However, we have to recognise that our 5G solutions are an enabler for enterprises to drive business outcomes. It's very important that we focus on what's important for the enterprise to save money, make money, drive sustainability.
One of the exciting things about the Port of Tyne and BT partnership is the opportunity to accelerate that innovation in private network 5G devices. They're critical for enabling new use cases. We're talking about a lot of new technologies coming on the market that are linked to AI, automation.
Technology is really the key to success for Tyne 2050. Ports are big links in a chain of logistics in the UK and around the world, but we have to be as fast and as nimble as every single other one of those links, and technology really provides us with that opportunity. It provides us with the opportunity of being more efficient, helping serve our customers better, helping our colleagues stay safer and do their work and be better informed. Working with BT and Ericsson will really help us move our port, our industry and our customers forward. We're going to make better decisions, we're going to be using the latest tools and technology, being more connected, having more information around us and helping us make better decisions, or in some cases making those decisions for us. Ultimately, it's going to help us stay ahead of the curve, so we're not just a port for today, we're a port for the future.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all for listening today. We hope that you'll take away that UK ports are open for quicker, faster, smarter, greener business. And I'd like to thank our experts here on the stage, Ian, Phil, Brian and Will, for today's contributions. Thank you, gents. And to the Port of Tyne, of course, for giving us the opportunity to speak here today. We're very grateful. And I know that we're all looking forward to continuing this conversation, whether it is online, later on via email, telephone or in person. And for those that are here, we would like to continue the conversation as we go to the top of the tower to watch that beautiful sunset. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, what a great session.